Thank you for the introduction. And I just want to say good evening, everyone. I'd really like to thank Stacey for that wonderful welcome to country. In doing so, I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri and Barong people as the traditional owners of the land that we are meeting on this evening. It is a real pleasure and a privilege to be here tonight. I say privilege much as anything because Canberra Airport was closed this morning and we thought there was a very real possibility that we wouldn't get here. The whole radar system was down, so nothing was coming in and nothing was going out. But look, it's good to be here, rain or otherwise. And it's really great to be able to recognise and celebrate the fantastic work of individuals and groups who are building greater diversity and inclusion in the technology sector. TechDiversity's mission to grow a thriving technology workforce that embraces diversity, equity and inclusion is a deeply important one. In September last year, the Minister for Industry and Science, the Honourable Ed Husic, announced a commitment to widen the pipeline of talent that's available to the science and technology sectors. This commitment emerged from discussions that were held in the lead up to and during the 2022 Jobs and Skills Summit. Government, through that process, heard about the growing demand for tech skills and tech jobs that will be required for the transformation and the diversification of the Australian economy. And that's reflected in government's target of 1.2 million tech-related jobs by 2030, as Susie mentioned. That target itself represents a significant opportunity to improve the diversity of the Australia's technology and its STEM sectors. To aid that, the government's commissioned an independent panel to lead a review called Pathway to Diversity in STEM. And this is going to be a review that aims to find ways to improve diversity in science, technology, engineering and maths. It will recommend how the Australian government can support change so that all people can access and that they can feel that they belong within STEM education, within STEM careers and industries. The panel itself is led by Sally Ann Williams, who's the CEO of Cicada Innovations, and includes Michaela Jade, who's the CEO and founder of In Digital and a Cabral woman, and Dr. Parwinder Kaur, who's the Associate Professor and Director of the DNA Zoo at the University of Western Australia. So it's a diverse panel and it's going to be looking at what's working and what's not. Crucially, it's going to examine how the lessons can be used to improve diversity in STEM and STEM leadership in the STEM workforce. That panel is supported by a task force in my division, and we're hoping that expecting that the recommendations will be delivered to government by October. And they have been engaging across Australia's science and technology, engineering and maths sector. To date, they've received more than 400 personal stories and they've received peer evidence. They've spoken to a really broad range of people who've got lived experience and expertise in the science and tech sectors. But that engagement is ongoing. It has included the education sector, industry figures, community organisations, and importantly, people from a lot of underrepresented cohorts, some of whom are in the sector, but some who we've seen have already left the science and tech sectors. The review will include an evaluation of 9 existing Commonwealth diversity and STEM programs, and we think that's a great thing. It gives us the ability to stand back from the investments that government's been making in diversity programs and again assess what's working and what's not. It'll incorporate research that's going to be undertaken in the University of New South Wales by Australia's Women in STEM Ambassador Lisa Harvey-Smith. But there's consensus in the evidence that we're seeing in the stories from real people that a truly diverse pipeline of talent is really fundamental to our nation's success. That's true in technology, it's true across all STEM and across all of Australian society. The recently released 2023 Australian Intellectual Property Report, I don't know if anybody's read it other than maybe a couple of us, but it states, that greater diversity leads to more radical innovation and higher quality ideas. So we've got some important questions through this review to answer. They include, how do we get the data right? How do we make sure that policy we design has impacts that are long-term, that are going to be systemic and affect cultural change? And how do we continue to evaluate the effectiveness of those interventions as they roll out? So the review is considering that range of questions. But it'll also consider how much can be done by government and how much needs to be led by the sector, which is why it's great to be at events like this one. And we know that getting it right is really important, because it's going to help Australians take advantage of digital technologies that will enhance our productivity, but also improve our well-being. It's going to help the government achieve that target of 1.2 million tech-related jobs for Australians by 2030. One of the other things that I was going to mention as an example of the government's commitment to reaching that goal is the Digital and Tech Skills Compact. Through that compact, the government is working with industry, with unions, and the training and education system to develop practical solutions to help tackle this digital skills challenge. Work is underway on the delivery of a digital apprenticeship scheme, a scheme that will be designed to support workers to earn while they learn in entry-level tech roles. Because growing a smart, tech-savvy pool of Australians is going to be important to when it comes to grasping the opportunities that we see that lie in areas like robotics and AI. Having more Australians excited about robotics and with the tech skills to match will help support thriving sectors like that. But growing a technology workforce that embraces diversity and inclusion is also something that's important to me personally. Before I entered the Australian Public Service, I was actually a solicitor by trade. I still probably associate with lawyers as my tribe, and I graduated from the ANU in the 1990s. Some of you will remember what technology looked like in that period of time. It explains why I still turn up at events like this with the tech sector with paper, because I'm still attached to it. I had the opportunity to work in a number of law firms. I progressed pretty rapidly through the ranks. That was in large part thanks to the support that I received from a very wise and incredibly patient female mentor at the time. And I think there are parallels between being a woman and a working mother in the legal field and women working in the tech industry. Like it was when I was in private practice in the 1990s, a lot of people are still working in fields where the majority of colleagues are men, and there's a real lack of cultural diversity to be seen in their workplaces. I was fortunate that I worked with male colleagues who were supportive of me personally, and as I went on to have 3 kids and work, but I was very conscious as the only woman at the board table that I was different, sometimes token, and certainly frequently a bit of a special case. And that's without going into the gender diverse pay gap at the time. I was the only one who was on a fixed income relevant to the profit sharing relationship the rest of my partners had. So the support of my colleagues allowed me to manage my career and my family, but all I'll say is that it wasn't easy and it required a lot of juggling and a lot of trade-offs. So I'm sure that there are many people in this room who've been affected by a lack of diversity as they see it and experience it in the tech sector now, and who aspire to see that change. And I think that's why events like this are so vital. So I did just want to thank you again, congratulate you on the work that you're doing to bring people together from across the tech sector. 650 people in the room is a great number. And to really celebrate those who are helping to build a more diverse and inclusive industry that is really going to be a benefit to all Australians. Thank you, and I hope you all have a lovely evening.